Hi, what's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with another F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, this time for episode 9 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. First of all, we have a sponsor renewal to get into, but we don't renew our sponsor, and instead we go for pay night. So Atlantic is gone, and instead we have pay night, because I thought that they would give us more money. Then we need to sort out our activity timeline. We can go for three-day activities, so we're going to go for the team building, the second driver PR filming, and the supplier HQ tour, because I felt that that gave us enough of a balance of all the different things that we could have boosted. So let's see if any upgrades fail, which they do. So we just quickly purchase the development again that failed for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, so we'll have it for the Canadian Grand Prix instead. And we're going to advance further time towards the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which isn't a weak track for me, it's quite a strong one, but it's not like my favourite track. It's going to be completely dry, or completely sunny it seems, the entirety of qualifying and the race. But there's good news that there isn't any rain. We're going to switch our engine components back to the slot 2, the ones we used for the Spanish Grand Prix, because Baku is a power circuit and we want maximum engine power. So we head on to our first lap in Q1 then, and as per usual, my first lap of the circuit isn't usually that good. Obviously there was practice, but that doesn't really tell you much in my opinion. It just tells you how the car feels, and the car felt alright. It didn't feel like anything special, but I'm hoping to see. Obviously we had good form in the Monaco Grand Prix last time out. We're hoping that we can maybe qualify, not in the top 5 probably, but let's aim for 5th. If we're there, yeah, let's try aim for top 5 like last time. Because the Red Bulls should be pretty weak around here, as they don't have a great power unit. We're into our second lap in Q1 then, and it is going alright. We're improving by quite a bit of time. We even set a purple sector 2, and we're going to improve by almost a second, and that will put us P9 in the session, so we make it through to Q2. Along with our teammate Jack Aitken, who is in P13. Valtteri Bottas topped Q1, and the Renaults and Alfa Romeos look pretty strong in 4th, 5th and 6th. Ricardo Raikkonen and Ocon. Kevin Magnussen got disqualified in qualifying, so I checked the race director, and apparently he was just blocking everybody in the track. He got 2 grid penalties for illegal blocking, and then got a third penalty of a disqualification for continuing to do so, which I thought was quite strange. But we'll head on into Q2 and see if we can get into Q3. As we head on to our first lap in Q2, we do have a worn set of tyres on, because we don't have enough fresh sets to continually do 2 laps in every session. But I do believe we can make it through to Q3. And this lap of course wasn't that good because we struggled with our worn tyres, but it put us in a reasonable position. It was obviously P7 just behind our teammate at the time, but as we head towards the end of the session on our second lap, it says P16, but I know that something is about to happen, because we then suddenly pop up to P15, and we haven't even set a lap, and then P14, and then P13, which I was quite confused about at the time. I was like, what's going on? And then the yellow flag came out, and towards the end of that we improved by quite a lot of time, and we're currently in P13 rather than the P16 that we should have been. But anyway, we go P4 in the session, and we make it through to Q3. So that is good news, but Esteban Ocon got a 5-place grid penalty, and 3 cars, Perez, Stroll and Gasly, were disqualified, which it seemed to be that the racing points collided and then were just stuck in the way of the track, and Gasly got stuck behind them and then Ocon hit into the back of them. But wow, I don't know how they managed to all do that, but 4 cars disqualified in qualifying and a grid penalty for another one. So that was a rather eventful qualifying, which means Jack Aitken does start in P12 as well. He didn't make it to Q3, but we do make it to Q3, and hopefully we can put a good lap. The Alfa Romeos are looking strong, they're both made it through, and we will see what we can do on our first lap again on a used set of tyres, so it won't be a particularly good one as we head through the first few corners. And well, nothing special with the lap. I don't think I'm ever really going to set a good first lap. I feel like that's just something I really struggle with. It really helps when you see the delta, in my opinion, because it feels like it gives you that encouragement to push harder. I don't really know, but our first lap is only enough for what would be P10 on the grid as we head to the end of the session. We're starting a lap with 10 seconds to go, and well, we managed to improve on our lap time by a bit in the first few corners, and well, yeah, you can see we're already 3/10 up, and as we head further on into the lap, we again set a purple sector 2, and we're 1.6 seconds up on our lap time, and it allows us to go P6, which is a decent result, and we split the Red Bulls.
Top 3 today: Hamilton, Vettel and Charles Leclerc. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So Hamilton takes pole by 5 thousandths over Sebastian Vettel. We managed to split the Red Bulls, about 5 tenths back to Raikkonen, about 5 tenths ahead as the Ferraris. So not really much more we could have done. Yes, I'm happy with where we're on the grid tomorrow. It's just simple. Well, they got their podium in their last race, but I do agree that they have looked like they haven't had great pace in the last few races.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Thomas and Albon, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Sainz and Jack Aitken, Ricciardo, Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty, Sergio Perez and Ocon, Gasly, Norris, Daniel Kvyat and Roman Grosjean. Russell, Stroll, Latifi and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid.
So the race strategy is quite mixed. I mean, I could go for the 1-stop, I could go for the 2-stop. It all depends on the tyre wear. I'd be happy to go with either. The 2-stop does look very, very tempting considering our issues in recent races. We've got 5 lights, it's lights out and away we go. So we've got a decent start. Nothing brilliant though. and we keep in P5. I should have mentioned Leclerc got a grid penalty, so we started one position higher than expected. A yellow flag is already out, and there's probably some chaos going on behind. But we keep P5 and we're following Verstappen through these few corners. I think I am going to be probably battling the Red Bulls this race a bit. Maybe, I don't know. Or I could be battling the Alfa Romeos if our tyre wear isn't that good. Because the 2-stop would put us on a slight disadvantage. But Verstappen seems to have quite a bit more pace than us. So it will be hard to catch him. So I think Albon is the Red Bull that we'll be fighting, as he's going to overtake us now. So we're now down to P6, which isn't good news for us. And we've got Raikkonen and Giovinazzi right behind us, the 2 Alfa Romeos. As we head to the end of lap 2, improving on our personal best and just behind Alex Albon, but I don't think we'll be able to make a move back on him, and he looks to just pull away here. We go to the end of lap 3 now, and Charles Leclerc has managed to get into P8, and well, it's going to be hard for us to keep Charles behind if he tries to overtake us. But Kimi Raikkonen is still the car directly behind us, so we're just slowly keeping that position. Leclerc's going to go for a move on him though, and we'll see who wins that battle. Looks like Leclerc has got the position, and well, he's managed to pretty much overtake all his positions that he lost almost already. But Raikkonen gets back past Leclerc, and we did decide at the end of lap 5 we were going to come in to the pits. We decided we were going to commit to the 2-stop, and we're going to fit the medium tyres, and hopefully we'll have a good chance for this race. So we come out basically side by side with Kevin Magnussen, but we hold the position in the inside line, and that means we have a bit of clean air to push on our lap, and that's exactly what we do. Is we gain 2 seconds on the car ahead, Romain Grosjean, and Raikkonen is in on the next lap, and we come out ahead of him, so that is good news. We come out well clear, and he will have some traffic to deal with. But we've got Grosjean, Stroll and Kvyat, it seems, directly ahead of us, who are battling quite hard with each other. And we don't want to be held up too much by them. So we're just going to try and quickly put some moves on them. We head through this section here, and it was probably my weakest point, that double chicane there. But I was not expecting to go for a move here, but I just didn't brake early, and that was the point. This corner here then we're about to talk about, as you see me, that was a very aggressive move and I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to talk about that corner there though, because that is a corner like in the Dutch Grand Prix. That corner you can pretty much cut almost as much as you want and it will not give you a warning. So it's a very good way to gain time around Baku. I didn't mean to go that aggressive on Stroll, but we did in the end, and we're back up to P15 as we're looking at the back of the 2 Alpha Tauris, and we come into this section again and we managed to overtake Pierre Gasly. Interestingly, we came out ahead of Hamilton as well as Leclerc, who we were already ahead of, so Hamilton must have had some issues in the pit stops or something, because he also came out behind Leclerc. We have Danny Kvyat just up next, and this should be a pretty simple move as we have DRS and we have the slipstream, so we're just going to go to the outside and simply overtake him round the outside. We're now going to have Lando Norris up next to overtake, as we are now back up to P9 in this race, trying to get as close as possible to the position we were beforehand. All these cars are on the hard tyres though, so they're going a more conservative strategy and trying to go longer in the Grand Prix, and then they're going to box later on. We head on to the end of lap 9 now, and we're going to try and overtake Lando Norris, and he goes defensive, so we're going to have a go round the outside into turn 1, and we keep the position well, and we are up to P8. So Daniel Ricciardo is up next, and with the pace we have on these tyres, we reel him in at just over a second a lap, and we got a double green sector at the end of lap 10, but we go slower in the final sector, but we're still catching Daniel Ricciardo, and by the end of lap 11 we should be on the back of him, which would definitely help us because we want to gain DRS and slipstream as much as possible. Our engineer basically suggests the same strategy that we were previously going on as we go up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, which is a decent move, and we're up to P7. We now have Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz in 6th and 5th, but because they have DRS on each other, then they weren't really struggling. Jack Aitken just came into the pits, and well, he seemed to be quite high up in this race because he must have pitted from a position that was ahead of Sainz and Perez, so he may have a good chance of scoring some good points this race, as theoretically he's in a net ahead of us because we have to stop again. We did struggle to catch up to Perez and Sainz because we were quicker than Perez in the corners, but he just gained so much on the straight because we didn't have any DRS. But finally on lap 14, Perez gets past Sainz, and now I believe we can catch up to them. So the gap is currently 1.6 seconds or so as Leclerc is catching up to us from behind, and by the end of lap 15 we've caught up to Carlos Sainz. So we set a new personal best, and now we've caught up to them, and hopefully we'll be able to overtake them as we head into this corner again. You know how I do it now, I just cut it, and then we're going to go round the outside of Carlos Sainz here, and that is P5. We are coming to the pits at the end of this lap, so it may be hard to get Sergio Perez because he's probably also going to go onto the medium tyres for his final stint, as we try and commit as early as possible to the left hand side so that Sainz doesn't go for a move there because we're going to be coming into the pits. We're going to hopefully get a good pit stop as we're losing positions to obviously Hamilton and the cars that are staying out. But I really hope we can get back into the points and secure a good finish. We're going to come out just ahead of Giovinazzi, who is ahead of our teammate Jack Aitken, so that's a real shame for us, as our teammate must have been held up behind him or something like that, as he hasn't made any progress and has lost time to us. We set a purple middle sector and on our outlap, and we're going to be gaining a few positions from cars in the pits, and we got the Alpha Tauris again right in front of us, but they still haven't stopped yet, and Fiat makes a slight mistake in the castle section, gets a very poor run, and we're going to go up the inside there, which is a great move for us. And for the second time this race, it seems we're going to be overtaking the Alpha Tauri cars. And as we head through this corner here, we get a good run on Pierre Gasly, but we're not going to go for move into this next corner. Instead, we're going to pick up some DRS and some slipstream, and well, as we pull into the slipstream, we've got so much more power, we basically get in before the DRS zone even comes up. Luckily, we crossed the line just behind him and do pick up the DRS. And hopefully this will allow us to set a new personal best in this race, which indeed it does. And with a few more cars into the pits, we are back up to P9 and are just behind Kimi Räikkönen, who we were battling earlier in the Grand Prix, along with Alex Albon, who was also just ahead of him. Sergio Perez was on the soft tyre and looked rapid in the first few laps, but we successfully defended against him. And at first I thought, what's Räikkönen doing? He's basically just slowed down and let us past. But it looks like a completely tactical move in the end, because as we go onto this straight here, he picks up DRS, picks up the slipstream, and just breezes straight back past us, and there's nothing we could do, even though we were much quicker than him in this Grand Prix. Lando Norris is meanwhile in the pits, and we jump up to P8, but now we're going to have to wait a bit further behind Räikkönen when we probably could have got him. And that could leave us vulnerable to Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz, who are both on the soft tyres behind. But we are going to continue to follow Kimi Räikkönen, and hopefully at some point in this lap we can make a move. And exactly like we did in Grosjean, we just braked later than the AI, and that was a very aggressive move, and I really shouldn't have done that, and I deserved the warning for that, definitely, because that was way too aggressive. So I do have to apologise for that move if you have a complaint with my driving. Esteban Ocon is meanwhile out of the session, so that's a shame for Renault. But we are in P7, and Räikkönen is managing to hold up Perez and Sainz, which is good news for us, because it means that they can't go and challenge us instead. So getting that move done on Räikkönen was crucial to do it as quick as possible. We are closing in on Alex Albon by a few tenths a lap, but there aren't enough laps left for us to catch him. So yeah, as Jeff says, we are catching the car ahead, but we need to make sure the tyres last till the end of the race, which I think they should. I don't see an issue. But Perez has finally got past Kimi Räikkönen, and he is now the car directly behind us, about 2.3 seconds behind. And we set a new personal best, and I was feeling pretty good as Sainz also gets past Räikkönen. And we were catching Alex Albon, but I knew by now we weren't going to catch him, even though the gap is now only 3 seconds, as we were on for a great lap in this lap. But I pretty much used up all my fuel in ERS, so I couldn't really push as much. So I went on to lap 24 and start lap 25, and my gap to Albon is only 2.8 seconds, but I basically at this point I gave up on pushing and just brought the car home to the finish. So as you see, Perez is slowly closing in on us, and we're slowly falling back from Albon now, because I realised we were pretty much nailed down for P7 and that we were never going to lose or gain positions. But P7 is still a good result as we head further into the lap. Hamilton has fastest lap in P5, but Bottas wins the Grand Prix, and that means Bottas will extend his championship lead despite not finishing in Monaco the previous race. And well, the Mercedes cars do look dominant. One of them pretty much wins each race, but for us it will be P7, so a decent result. Not as good as our previous 2 races, but I will definitely take P7. I wasn't expecting much more. The races weren't as crazy as the previous 2, and there weren't as many key DNFs in front of us. Charles Leclerc wins driver of the day. So
here's how things look in the drivers' table. More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on the track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, good work from the owner drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
So Bottas actually won the race by only a tenth of a second to Sebastian Vettel. So that must have been a really close run to the line. And I'm not sure if it was Bottas overtaking or Vettel overtaking, but we go up to P5 in the constructor standings as a team, and we overtake Racing Point. So I think we can aim for best of the rest this year. I think that'll be a solid position for us. And in the Drivers' Championship, we move up to P7 as the best of the rest driver, as we overtake Daniel Ricciardo after a good result again here today. So, very good position. It was crucial we also beat Kimi Räikkönen just to finish off the rivalry, which you'll see in a few moments. Claire's just confirming that we managed to beat Kimi Räikkönen in the rivalry, and our car was better than the Alfa Romeo, so I was expecting to win. I think they did underestimate the team. I don't think he really underestimated me in a way. Our team I underestimated as well. I didn't expect we'd be the best of the rest car at this point of the season. Well, I mean, I'm going to put that no one was at fault, but it was definitely my fault, so I'm going to put my hands up and say that that was my fault. I don't really know what they mean by with that crash. I don't really think I crashed, but I'll just put that it was the durability's fault, because I don't really care about the durability department right now. We beat Kimi Räikkönen in the rivalry, which is very good news for us, and we'll probably be choosing a new rival shortly. We go up to level 6 as a driver, and level 8 as a team in claim levels, so that's very good news. But I will leave that episode there, and I will see you guys next time for the Canadian Grand Prix.